Greenbriar Mall, an iconic location. Opened in the year 1965, September 23rd, 650,000 square feet. Calling all my Grady babies, this episode is so Atlanta. This iconic location has to be mentioned in reference to the city of Atlanta. Some of you, depending on how old you are, you have different memories of Greenbriar Mall. Y'all baby boomers in the 60s probably remember coming in here in 1965 to have your first meal at Piccadilly when it opened, or taking a bite of one of those little Chick-fil-A sandwiches for 59 cents. The first indoor, inside of a mall location ever was here in the mall, Greenbriar. Now, in the 80s, for all of you arts lovers, I know you remember the National Black Arts Festival, one end of the mall to the next, full of Black art for the Artist Fair. Hip-hop has always embraced Greenbriar. You might have heard the lyrics about Greenbriar Mall in a Ludacris record, a Childish Gambino record. But in the 90s, everybody remembers that Jermaine Dupri discovered Chris Kelly and Chris Smith walking through the aisles of Greenbriar Mall with their pants on backwards. And he packaged them as Kross with their double platinum certified hit, Jump. The Mac Dad'll make you jump, jump. Now for you TV heads, y'all might remember Greenbriar because its location opened season 4 of the Emmy Award winning TV series Atlanta, when Darius was trying to make a return and the lady just kept following him around town. Well, it kicked off in Greenbriar Mall. I won my first contest in life right here on the end of Greenbriar Mall by Piccadilly. It was a coloring book contest. Me and Fred Flintstone were hanging out that day and 200 other children. Because back in those days, during the missing and murdered children in Atlanta, Greenbriar Mall covered us and protected us and provided programming for the children in Southwest Atlanta's community, and we felt like this was our safe space. The next thing I bet you didn't know about Greenbriar Mall, well, actually, Greenbriar Center, we're gonna go back to 1965. The original architect was Edwards and Portman. Edwards was short for H. Griffith Edwards, a former professor from Georgia Tech, but his business partner was probably one of my favorite architects of all time, John Portman Jr. They designed many of Atlanta's most iconic and recognizable structures downtown, completely transforming Atlanta's skyline and urban identity. The third thing I bet you didn't know, the land that Greenbriar sits on was originally a golf course. 40 years before Greenbriar broke ground, the Black Rock Golf Club opened right here in 1926 with notable golfers like Fred Owen, who played before World War II. A golfer who was a big deal associated with the Meadowbrooks Country Club was Atlanta-born Georgia Hall of Famer Gene Dahlbender. As early as age 16, he was one of the most successful, highly decorated amateur players of his time. Many called him the next Bobby Jones, not only because he and Bobby were from Atlanta, but because he had a natural swing that dominated the Southern amateur golf scene. Fast forward 1960s, another Atlanta-born golf legend frequently played at this very location. But by the 60s, the name of the club changed again. It was called the Continental Colony Club. The Atlanta legend I'm speaking of came with some girl power and was the first woman inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame. Her name was Louise Suggs, a charter member of the LPGA, the Ladies Professional Golf Association, which still exists today, with 17,000 members worldwide and stands as the oldest continuing women's sports organization in the United States. Overall, she won 61 LPGA Tour wins, 11 of which were major championship titles, and she was the first player in LPGA history to win the same tournament 3 years in a row. The Mall Greenbriar as we know it today is not the original design of Greenbriar. In 1987, Greenbriar was redesigned to reflect the 80s modernism, but in 1965, when it was built as Greenbriar Center, it had a mid-century modern design. Polished rust-colored terrazzo floors stretched from JCPenney's to Rich's. And a Portman's signature design feature was his 952-foot-long skylight that was so large you could see it from the highway. Much like many of Edward and Portman's architectural designs, Greenbriar had a theme centered around nature. There were obvious and not so obvious things. One not so obvious thing was a continuous series of white curved, tapered columns that looked like awnings he called elephant snouts because of their long, slender curves, and they wrapped the entire inside and outside of the mall. The obvious things were those bird aviaries that so many of us remembered sprinkled throughout the mall with live birds in them. And of course, us 60s, 70s, and 80s kids remember playing on the precast concrete animal statues. Greenbriar was designed as a people space where it was not only about shopping, it was about socializing, and laid the foundation of Greenbriar's culture for many decades to come. All right, now you make sure you continue to support local iconic businesses such as Greenbriar Mall, who have been holding down the community in Atlanta, Georgia for over 50 years. See you next time on Yo, Did You Know? Thanks for virtually tagging along with me on today's episode of Yo, Did You Know? A Travelogue web series that follows me, Jen Farris, a seasoned film and TV location scout into film-friendly communities to reveal history hidden in plain sight, the artistry of architecture, and oftentimes the change makers who made those communities special. Did you learn something new today? Well, let's keep exploring together at YoDidYouKnowSeries.com.